Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya. Sabha also those Sisvadesi, Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Namachar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sagaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gova Govida Shyama Kunda Radha Kudda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Ki Jai, Navadatam Ki Jai, Gang Jamuna Tosim Bhaktidevi Ki Jai, Nanda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai, Go Premanandi, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswata Deve Gauravani Prachadane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschatadesha Tarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 82, Verse 17. Prata Bratrin Swastrin Viksha Tat Putra Pitaravapi Bratra Patnir Mukundam Cha Jahau Sankataya Suchaha. Raja Kunti, Bratran, her brothers, Swastra, sisters, Viksha, seeing, Tat, their, Putran, children, Pitarao, her parents, Api, also, Bratra, of her sons, Patni, the wives, Mukundam, Lord Krishna, Cha, also, Jahao, she gave up, Sankataya, while talking, Sucha, her sorrow. Translation: Queen Kunti met with her brothers and sisters and their children, and also with her parents, her brothers' wives, and Lord Mukunda. While talking with them, she forgot her sorrow. Purport: even the constant anxiety of a pure devotee, apparently just the opposite of the impersonalist Shanti, can be an exalted manifestation of love of God, as exemplified by Srimati Kunti Devi, the aunt of Lord Krishna and the mother of the Pandavas. Queen Kunti said, "My dear respectable brother, I feel that my desires have been frustrated because although all of you are most saintly, you forgot me during my calamities." Here Queen Kunti addresses her brother Vasudeva. Friends and family members, even children, brothers and parents, forget a dear one when providence no longer favors. Purport: Srila Sridhar Swami and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur both comment that Kunti does not blame her relatives for her suffering, thus she calls them most saintly persons, and alludes here to her own bad fortune as the cause of her unhappiness. Sri Vasudeva said, "Dear sister, please do not be angry with us. We are only ordinary men, playthings of fate. Indeed, whether a person acts on his own or is forced by others, he is always under the Supreme Lord's control. Harassed by Kamsa, we all fled in various directions, but by the grace of Providence we have now finally been able to return to our home, my dear sister." Sukadeva Goswami said, Vasudeva, Ugrasena, and the other Yadus honored the various kings who became supremely blissful and content upon seeing Lord Achyuta. All the royalty present, including Bhishma, Drona, Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and her sons, the Pandavas and their wives, Kunti, Sanjaya, Vidura, Kripacharya, Kunti, Bhoja, Virata, Bhishmaka, great Nagnajit, Urujit, Drupada, Salya, Drishtaketu, Kasiraj, Damagosha, Vishalaksha, Maitila, Madra, Kekaya, Yudamanyu, Susharma, Balika, with his associates and their sons, and the many other kings subservient to Maharaj Yudhisthira. All of them, O best of kings, were simply amazed to see the transcendental form of Lord Krishna, the abode of all opulence and beauty, standing before them with his consorts. Purport: all these kings were now followers of Yudhisthira because he had subjugated each of them to earn the privilege of performing the Rajasuya sacrifice. The Vedic conjunctions state that a kshatriya who wants to execute the Rajasuya for elevation to heaven must first send out a victory horse to roam freely. Any other king whose territory this horse enters must either voluntarily submit or face the kshatriya or his representatives in battle. After Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna had liberally honored them with great joy and enthusiasm, these kings began to praise the members of the Vrishni clan, Sri Krishna's personal associates. O King of the Bhojas, you alone among men have achieved a truly exalted birth, for you continually behold Lord Krishna, who is rarely visible even two great yogis. So here we have a description of the interaction between the various persons who had gathered at Kurukshetra after the eclipse was finished, and they took their meal, and then they greeted each other and they began to discuss. So first of all, we have Kunti meeting with all of her various relatives, etc. And she, in one sense, laments because of separation from dear ones, and that is mentioned here where it says sucha, that is lamentation. But she gave up the lamentation by talking with various persons such as Krishna and Vasudeva, etc. So she states here that she has been forgotten by the others during calamities, and at the same time, these persons, so they seem to forget, actually, she does not blame them at all for her particular condition. So we should not think that she is blaming others for her problems. Rather, she accepts that position as her own doing, even though it may look like others are to blame for her position of lamentation, etc. So this is the position of a devotee. The devotee does not blame other persons for his particular condition. In the Bhagavatam, it is stated that the devotee sees his condition as self-created, svakritam. He himself has caused whatever misfortune he has in this lifetime. This, of course, can refer to karma, that the devotee realizes that his misfortune is due to karma, and karma is a result of his previous actions. So therefore, our suffering is self-created. It's not that somebody else makes us suffer. We create this suffering by our previous actions. And if someone is the immediate cause of our suffering in this lifetime, we can understand that this is only the arrangement of karma by which we get our suffering. And if we hadn't done those particularly sinful acts in a previous lifetime, then that person would not afflict us at all. So the person is the person who causes the affliction in this lifetime is only an instrument of karma. So we cannot blame that particular person. Unfortunately, in our life, generally we don't have such vision. Our vision is very short, so we will see the immediate cause of our suffering. It may not be a person, but often it is a person. It could just be circumstances itself. Other times it is particular persons that cause the suffering. And then we tend to blame that person. Why did you do that? And we accuse the other person, or we attack the other person, or whatever. We may use words. We may just mentally think badly of the person. We may physically attack the person, whatever. So, depending on our particular situation, we will respond to the immediate cause of our suffering in this way. This does not really solve the situation. It makes it worse. And by acting in this way, we create more karma for ourselves. And then in future life, again, we have to suffer. So, in other words, this is not a very intelligent way to act in a particular situation. But it's also very difficult not to do that. So we see that animals, if they are attacked, then they immediately defend themselves. It's an automatic response. And of course, it's good because every animal has to defend itself from other animals if they attack. So somehow they have to defend themselves or whatever, protect themselves. And the same goes for the human being. Then we automatically have responses like that. So we can say, well, why? What's the difference then? Don't blame the animal. Why blame the animal? Why blame the human being if you get in fights and whatever? Problem is, human being is supposed to be different from animals. If we act like animals, then we can become animal. No problem. If we act like that, then we can become that in future lifetime. Act like the animal, like dogs and tigers or whatever. But human being is supposed to be different. Animals do not get reactions for their actions. They don't get karma. Because their intelligence is not very advanced. Human beings, they get reaction for their activities. They may not realize it, however. So it takes an intelligent person to not simply react to the immediate situation and do whatever is appropriate. He has to be a little more intelligent than that. Of course, Scripture itself defends such actions. If you were attacked, then you have there's no sin in defending yourself. Things like that. So there are provisions for no bad karma for your acts of violence or whatever, if it's in self-defense, etc. However, the human being often does more than that. And more than simply defend himself and whatever, he will very maliciously attack. And sometimes he never forgets that other person, and that person becomes an enemy forever, and he'll do whatever he can to defeat that person in the future. So this creates very bad karma for the person. So the human being should not act in that way. He has to be more intelligent, more discreet. Unfortunately, if you're in the lower modes of nature, very difficult to get out of that situation. So we continue our karmas, and we get more and more entangled in our activities, life after life after life. To help us, then we have a varnashram system to regulate us, to give us some standards. Well, you cannot do that. You can do this much. You cannot do that. So our activities are all regulated by rules. We find that most societies have rules. So Varnashram has a whole more detailed set of rules. But then the rules are also molded for certain types of people. So we have rules for Sudras, rules for Vaishyas, rules for Kshatriyas, and rules for Brahmanas. Different sets of rules. According to the gunas of the person. So, if the person follows those rules, then he can gradually purify himself. Right. So the whole system of rules is to elevate the person over many lifetimes until he comes to Sattva Gun. In Sattva Gun, then the person has a natural sense of control of his senses and his mind. Furthermore, he can understand he's not the body. And then he can begin to practice jnana or yoga or bhakti. So the whole varnashram system is meant to elevate the human being by giving guidance on what is proper to do and what is improper to do. So if we follow that system, then we can gradually get rid of all the bad karmas, and we can elevate ourselves to a higher guna. And eventually we can also release ourselves from karma completely and get liberation. So it's a long process, but nevertheless, if we persevere life after life, then we can get success in this way. Unfortunately, it's a very long process, and also it's very difficult to follow in Kali Yuga perfectly because the whole social structure is not intact and the professions are not intact. Society is very disturbed. So it can only be partially practiced. We have remnants that can be practiced. So the solution is that we can do bhakti. This will compensate for whatever lack we have in that other system. Plus, we go beyond elevation to sattva gun and liberation. And we attain prema. So if we follow the practice of bhakti yoga, then we can also come to this higher position. So when we are practicing bhakti yoga, then we have to have a certain mentality, a certain attitude. It's not just activities. There's a certain intention and mentality behind those activities as well. Of course, the main intention is anukulya krishnano silanam. It should be anukulya. We should have a favorable, affectionate attitude towards the Supreme Lord in our activities. We do the activity, but we should have that favorable attitude of affection for the Lord. And of course, the best is with no other desire. We're not expecting to get things out of the Supreme Lord by our activities. So, if we do those activities and express that type of unconditional love, then we become very successful. We can advance very, very easily. Right? The obstacles are such things, as I just mentioned, that we are put in circumstances due to karmas or whatever, and then react to those situations on a lower level. And we start blaming everybody for our situation. So this puts us back on a lower level again. And then we can start operating through karma again. And the whole process of bhakti is to take us beyond all of that and think in terms of prema, in terms of surrender to the Lord. So when we start blaming others, again, we're making ourselves the center of everything. I have to enjoy, and anyone who interrupts my enjoyment is an enemy. So this is very unfavorable for devotional development. So, therefore, the true devotee understands that all of the activities and circumstances he's put into, which may be activities or circumstances of suffering, then it's self-created. He accepts the responsibility for his previous actions and the result he's getting now. And he doesn't blame other persons. He has created the situation, he's here now. At the same time, he does not simply lament that everything is hopeless. He takes it as, one, mercy of the Lord, that he has something to learn from this, and the Lord is not to blame also. Why did the Lord create that karma for me? Why did he make the law of karma so I have to suffer like this? No, he doesn't think in that way. Very intelligently, the Lord has given me a lesson to learn from this. And he continues to serve the Lord, to worship the Lord. Which means that through this whole process of living in the material world and experiencing his karmas and understanding how he's created his own suffering, etc., he gets more faith in the Supreme Lord, and therefore very enthusiastically he continues to serve the Lord. Therefore, he overcomes this tendency to put ourselves in the center of enjoyment. And he understands that Supreme Lord is the ultimate arranger of everything. And he simply accepts the will of the Lord at that point and everything that the Lord gives. And what is the result of that? He gets the mercy of the Lord. He gets everything from the Lord. In other words, all of his problems are solved. Whatever suffering and whatever bad conditions are there, Lord takes care of the situation for him. Everything is solved. This is the way in which the devotee should act within this material world. He performs the process of bhakti with the proper attitude, understanding that he doesn't blame others for the activities. He understands there's an arrangement of the Lord for everything. And he understands that the Lord will be merciful to him and make proper arrangements so that he can advance further and further in devotional service. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that, of course, the whole process of bhakti is a process of purification. That is, that Chetodarpana Marjanam, that all of the sinful desires and sinful acts become eradicated. But then the opposite also is there, that knowledge arises and then bliss arises through this whole process. But then he also says that the attitude has to be there. The devotee has to be lower, think himself lower than the straw in the street and more tolerant than the tree. So in other words, he cannot put himself in the center. He's like the grass. The grass is the lowest plant, not the highest plant. So the devotee understands that he is just merely the one among many servants of the Supreme Lord. He's not the center of the universe. And he's under the will of the Supreme Lord. At the same time, he also understands that, yes, he's lower than the blade of grass and is insignificant in one sense before the Lord. But also, he understands the Lord is the reservoir of all mercy. So therefore, he's also the recipient of the Lord's mercy. The Lord is most merciful to the devotee. So therefore, though he is like a blade of grass in one sense, he's also got the full mercy of the Lord, so that he can develop fully in relation to the Supreme Lord. So he can accept the blessings of the Lord. And thus, the devotee has to perform his devotional service and chant the holy name with this very proper attitude of submission to the Lord and giving up his own sense of ego or pride, etc. And thus it says that one should not expect honor and give all respect to others. So if the devotee has the proper attitude in the process of bhakti and chanting the holy name, then the power of the name reveals itself. As the second verse of the Shashashtaka says, the name is endowed with all the Shaktis of the Lord. And in all sorts of circumstances it operates to raise the jiva from a very fallen condition to the highest condition. So this is a very powerful process. Bhakti is very powerful and chanting the holy name is very powerful. So if we do it in the proper way, then we get the proper results. And of course, not only proper results, we get the highest result. Highest result possible. So this is the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to give us the proper means of getting the highest result. And in this way, we solve all these problems that are there. The problems become insignificant for the devotee.
For a pure devotional service. And mother was and still she has material impediments on her life. So you said that Krishna removes all the problems. So does it mean the problems keep coming and the Krishna keeps solving for the devotee?
Well, in this case, of course, the Pandavas and Kunti, etc., are part of the Lord's pastimes, so we cannot attribute what we call suffering to karma. It's arrangement of the Supreme Lord. Just like Jai and Vijay falling out of the spiritual world is not some karma or due to ignorance or whatever. Arrangement of the Supreme Lord in that case. In cases where we have devotees who are not nitya-siddhas, they may also undergo suffering or whatever in the material world. So there's several reasons for that. One, of course, is that there still may be some karmas present due to not complete destruction of anarthas. Or there may be a shadow of karma. So as long as the devotee anyone is in the material world, devotee or jnani or whatever, there'll be some interaction with the material world. That's inevitable. The body interacts with the material world. It's hot, it's cold, it's this and that. And the body has to respond to that. So the devotee must also do that, as long as he has a material body in this world. He's living at a certain time and place, and he goes through time, and then certain events happen. So we can say that's all karma in one sense, or looks like karma at least. So technically there is no karma. All the karmas are destroyed. Of course, the little traces are there, but by the end of a sakti, it's all gone. But we see that even in bhava and prema, the devotees seem to have karma. But that is not karma. That's only an appearance of karma. The little pattern remains because the person has a material body. So the Supreme Lord keeps that there. If the karmas were all gone, the devotee would disappear. His body would go. All karmas gone, no more life. Gone. Give up the material body, go to the spiritual world. So that would mean no more prema bhaktas in the world. Only sadhakas. When they got the prema, then they disappear. So the Lord keeps devotees in the material world, even the prema bhaktas, for some time. And it looks like they go through karmas, but that's only an appearance. It's arranged by the Supreme Lord. It's not real karma at that point. So they may appear to have accidents, they may appear to get sick, or so they die at a certain point. It's all arrangement of the Lord only at that point. Just like we have arrangements with the nitya-siddhas or whatever, who don't even have material bodies.
To what extent one must understand the will of the Lord? Sometimes a devotee make a mistake, and he may think that it's the will of the Lord. Do the mistake also is the will of the Lord, so the devotee makes a mistake, like Yudhishthira, they told him don't go for gambling. He still went, and they suffered, and Krishna helped him.
Well, we can't just attribute everything to the Supreme Lord. In other words, all the bad activities and sinful activities. Oh, it's the will of the Lord to do this. So this is like committing sinful activity in the strength of the holy name, or whatever. So that's even worse. So in the name of will of the Supreme Lord, that doesn't mean we are free to indulge in all sorts of sinful activities or violent activities. When we talk about we accept the will of the Lord, that in any situation we accept the ultimate solution or resolution of that situation, and we don't demand more. In other words, okay, we're sick and we get cured or partially cured or whatever. In any case, we accept whatever the Lord gives there. We may get partially cured, we may get fully cured, we may not get cured. We just simply accept that as part of the material world, and somehow it's the mercy of the Supreme Lord.
Why we should counteract the sickness? I am sick, so I am suffering. Then I go to the Lord, please get me rid of the sickness.
Well, most people don't like to suffer in this material world, and that suffering creates a distraction, so they cannot even perform their devotional service properly. So the devotee's attitude that we avoid sickness in order to serve the Lord in a more optimal state, where our mind is peaceful and our mind is alert and our body is in full strength. Definitely, if we are sick and whatever, we can still serve the Lord. And some devotees in that position, they have no way of curing themselves, so they accept that position, they go on whatever they can. But if you can have opportunity to operate at full capacity, then you could do much more again. But the devotee accepts his position in relation to the what the Lord gives.
Well, there is a mention that the Kunti called those who caused her trouble as saintly. But generally we understand a devotee has a power of discrimination, but here she calls them saintly. How to understand that, brother? Those who caused trouble to her, she is calling them saintly.
Oh, well, I suppose we can say in this case that this is merely a reflection of the idea that she's not blaming others for her position. Now, she could also blame Vasudeva, why you didn't help me when I was, suffering. But she doesn't do that. Obviously, is saintly. It's not also we can say, exaggeration in that case when she's talking about her brother, not helping her in some case. So that is not a lack of discrimination. Actually, it's true. He is very saintly, and a lot of these people, all the Yadus and others, were very saintly. In fact, they were Nitya Siddhas. So there's no loss of discrimination on her part for such statements in that case. But rather to indicate that she did not hold any, let's say, grudge against them, that why did you abandon me or whatever.
Mercy of the Lord, mercy and the will are the both different?
We can take that as the same thing, will of the Lord, the mercy of the Lord. And everything the Lord does is mercy in one sense. His actions, His thoughts, His will, His desires are all mercy in one sense.
Can we understand that if suppose a prisoner is put in the jail, he comes out of bail, but still he had to suffer?
Who's that?
A prisoner, a thief, after stealing he is put in the jail, and he puts an advocate and comes out of in bail.
Yeah.
But still he had to suffer. Likewise a devotee, if he suffers, he goes to the Lord, prays to Him, temporary suffering. Still he has to undergo the suffering in the later stage or next life. Better to undergo the suffering in this life itself. Instead of asking for the...
Well, in terms of karma, you're saying. Well, if some karmas are such that they go on for many lifetimes, so you cannot escape those. Some, by experiencing them now, then you finish that particular karma. Depends on the intensity of the karma. Just like the jail term technically is finished for the government for a certain time, then you get out. So it's finished at that time. So if you undergo a particular karma, then it's finished, and then you don't have to suffer for that anymore in this lifetime. Well, the devotee who simply prays to get rid of his karmas, that's karma Mr. Bhakti. But the devotee, obviously, no jiva likes the material suffering. They don't like pain or whatever. And it can become an obstacle to serving the Lord. So therefore, the devotee would prefer to serve the Lord in a healthy condition with no obstacles. That's preferable. If the Lord allows that, so therefore he can pray for that, and whatever the Lord gives, he accepts that.
Guru Maharaj, to what extent a devotee should depend upon strategies and planning in executing devotional service, or just take up whatever comes every day when he gets up in the morning?
Well, the devotee should use his intelligence, since that's also given by the Supreme Lord. In other words, just as we can do bhakti, but if we do bhakti with knowledge, sambandha gyan, then we get better results. If we do accidental bhakti or casual bhakti, we get a little result. If we have knowledge of who is Krishna and the goal, then we get better results. So, in other words, we can plan everything in devotional service according to the goals we want to achieve, and we get better results than if we don't plan anything.
But sometimes what we plan or what we expect doesn't happen.
If it doesn't count, fine. Then we make another plan. Maybe it wasn't a good plan, maybe it was not Krishna's will, so then we just try something else. But at least we should have some plan. That's the ability of the human being over the animal, that he can look about now and he can look about what he wants to achieve in the future. The animal doesn't really have such abilities. So human beings should do that, and we should use that in the material world, we should do that in the spiritual life also. So therefore we have knowledge in spiritual life, and we have a goal, prayojana, and we have a process to get there and everything. So we have some advantage as a human being to utilize the intelligence and the mind to progress in bhakti.
Usually we see that devotees suffer because they stick to something and they don't give up their thoughts. They keep struggling for whatever they wanted to achieve.
Yeah, we should not be too attached to anything. So we're simply attached to it. It may be material attachment. If it's a material attachment, then it will hold us back, like the boatman in the river with the anchor. So if we have that material attachment, we can struggle in devotional service, but if we don't give up that attachment, then we don't advance. So then we have to give that up.
Attachments, somebody is attached to his services, like...
Yeah, we can be attached to it, but then again, some of these things in the spiritual world, of course, everything is eternal. And of course, some of these services are independent of anything else, like chanting the holy name. It doesn't depend on another person, so we can always do that service. So we may have particular services in the temple or whatnot, and we may be attached to that service. So good as far as we're serving the Supreme Lord and we're getting some results for Krishna. That's good for us. But we may have some material attachment there also. Material attachment for pride, or material attachment because we're lazy. We don't want to do anything else. Once we got something that's easy for us, so we just stick to that. We don't want to do anything else. It's a comfortable habit we've learned. So a devotee should be a little bit unattached in one sense. He's flexible enough to accommodate all sorts of conditions and changes as well. Not that he has to do everything exactly the same all the time. In fact, more willingly he should want to do new things. And more of a challenge to learn new things and do new things.
Sometimes we find a devotee may bring a lot of Lakshmi, he preaches more, distributes a lot of books, and so we say that, oh, Lord is very merciful to him. But it may not so, he may have a different quality, the attitude may be different. So how the judgment factor depends?
Well, some of the accomplishments may be due to material good karmas or whatever. It may also be due to mercy of the Supreme Lord in a particular situation. Ultimately, the mercy of the Lord is not the external accomplishment, but the advancement in bhakti. That's the real mercy. So if a person gets that, then of course that he's very, very fortunate. Sometimes we can tell by the externals that is happening, but we should not just judge by the externals alone.
There's a statement that it depends on the number of devotees that he makes. He is considered to be a devotee is judged by the number of devotees he makes.
Yeah.
That seems to be apparently external, Maharaj.
Well, by devotee, then we mean not just numbers, but sincere devotees. So, if the devotees are sincere that result from his preaching, fine, that means his preaching was very effective. Now, you could go for numbers, and you make all sorts of artificial devotees or, material devotees or whatever, then that, of course, obviously is, because he has a material mentality of getting numbers, and he got numbers, but they're not real devotees in one sense.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare
Vishnu Pada.
edition of the book. We can visit Amazon website for your country and sign in with your account. We can search the book by typing the title of the book or type H.H. Bhanuswamy in the search bar to get the complete list of Maharaj's publications. By clicking H.H. Bhanuswamy, we can see the entire library. Let's select a book, say Gopal Champu. On the right hand side, we will find a drop-down box with the title Deliver to. Click on it to select your device. Click Buy Now and proceed with your login details and complete the payment process. Some of the books are free with Kindle Unlimited. We can get them by clicking here. To get the paperback edition, please click here. To get Kindle app, please visit the Google Play Store and install it. Open the Kindle app. Click on Start Reading. And then let's get started. If the search box is not there, click Next till you find the search box. We can search the book by typing the title of book or type H.H. Bhanuswamy in the search bar to get the complete list of Maharaj's publications. By clicking on See More, we can get the entire library. Select the book. You can also check the sample by clicking here. Buy now and enjoy reading. We finally proceed to the payment option. Hare Krishna.